Go. Well, hi everybody, Lisa Tamati here at Pushing the Limits, and today I have a very special couple of guests with me, Brian Hogan and Chloe Hogan, all the way from Auckland. Hi guys, how you doing?
Yeah,
good, thanks.
Yeah, good morning, Lisa.
We've had a little bit of technical troubles trying to get you on here, but we've worked it out. So
Yeah.
now I have, this is a very special story, guys, that I wanted to share with you, the audience, because Chloe's had an incredible, difficult journey behind her and her dad and her family. And I wanted to share a little bit of their story because it sort of parallels a little bit what I went through with my mum. And so I'm going to start with you, Brian. What actually happened to Chloe? Can you take us back to 8 years ago?
Okay, well, on the morning of her 22nd birthday, she left to go to work at around 5:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And within, about 3 k's down the road, she, for some unknown reason at this stage, well, what we won't ever know, she swerved to miss something on the road. It was a foggy, wet morning.
Yep.
And she lost control of her car and slammed passenger side on into a heavy concrete power pole. She sustained a traumatic brain injury. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, there was a trauma theatre nurse living within 30 metres of the crash.
Wow.
Her husband came out, saw the situation, called his wife, who came out, and she stabilised, cleared her airways, stabilised Chloe, got her breathing. Soon after that, somebody had rung the 111, and the police arrived, and then the ambulance arrived, and she was taken to Middlemore Hospital.
Wow.
We were completely unaware of that, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, we had a knock on our door, and there was 2 policemen standing there, and of course you wonder what this is all about. You think the worst, and it was the worst almost. They said Chloe had been involved in an accident, and that she was very serious. The accident was in their terminology a grade 9, and grade 10 is a fatality. So they kindly offered to drive us through to Middlemore, which they did at great speed, and we arrived to find Chloe had been stabilised in the hospital, and but she was totally unconscious, of course. It was hooked up to all sorts of hoses and gadgets. Mm. And then then we were told that they didn't have the equipment to continue the treatment there. She needed further urgent intervention, medical intervention, so she was put in an ambulance, and again, we, following her, rushed through to Auckland Hospital, where she was went into intensive care. And
wow.
Yeah, so it was quite a morning.
Yes, it was. And so Chloe was only 22 years old, major brain injury, so she's hanging on for dear life. She's in the hospital. Of course, Chloe, you won't remember any of this, will you?
No.
Nothing. Thank goodness. That's a really good thing. So, Brian, I know that then it was touch and go for a fairly long time. Chloe was in a coma in the ICU unit. What was that time in your life like?
Well, I guess that first 2 or 3 days, you were just a sideline observer, really. You couldn't do anything. We were totally numb. Totally numb. It was like an out-of-body experience. We weren't told that she was going to pull through. We weren't told that she was going to die, because nobody really knew. So it was a time of great concern. Wow. And she was blissfully sleeping through all this.
Thank goodness, yeah.
Worrying ourselves sick. But anyway, I think on the 3rd day, Dr. Stephen Street called a meeting with the family and said that at this stage there was a high likelihood that she wouldn't die. So
she was.
He said, be prepared for a long journey.
Yeah.
And
it has been.
Have to go with right out the storm, as it were.
So I know that she was in coma for, I think, 23 days, but at day like 19 or something, they said to you, you might have to turn off the life support. What was
That's
that?
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. She was transferred to Hyperbaric and see after a week out of intensive care. And after, I think it was the 19th day or the 20th day, we were called to a meeting with the senior registrar on the high dependency ward, who said to us, there is no chance that Chloe will wake out of her coma. Her injuries are too severe, and you probably, the family, need to consider the alternatives, which is withdrawal of life support. And he pushed a document or pamphlet across the desk to us. We were just devastated.
You were devastated, and you actually refused, didn't you, Brian?
Yeah, we thought about it.
I'm his favourite.
Yeah, of course you're his favourite. So yeah, you basically you know it came to be that you left the life support on, and thank God you did. Is that what happened?
I thought about it for all of 10 seconds and said, no, we're not doing that.
Exactly.
and pointed to the little document on the wall that says they can't do that without intervention. On the wall of the hospital, there's your rights.
Yes, brilliant.
And so that was it. I think everyone went away pretty upset. But anyway, just normal for Chloe. On the 23rd day, she woke up.
She woke up just 4 days later.
Yeah.
And they were expecting her to, not wake up ever at all. This is pretty frightening though, Brian, if you think about it. Like, how many times has life support been turned off when it didn't need to be turned off?
Well, exactly. I've thought about that a million times.
Yeah.
And, I've always been a pretty determined person, so I thought, we're not going to give up. And
hell no. It's certainly not 3 weeks into the drama. I remember with Mum, I was, given non-resuscitation orders to sign, and I wasn't as polite as you, just saying no. I used some stronger language back then. There was no way I was doing that. So after Chloe woke up, of course, she had massive brain damage. And Chloe, what is the very first memories that you have? How many months passed, or, your dad will be able to help you here, but how many months before you can actually remember anything?
The first thing I remember was another patient at ABI shouting.
Okay, so you have actual little bits of memory of actually in the hospital still. Okay.
No, in the rehab.
In the rehab, okay. So after...
I have no memory of hospital.
Yeah, so she was in Auckland Hospital for 2 months, and then transferred to Cabot ABI, which is out in Ranui. And so that was probably 4 months after her accident before she has that memory.
Wow. And that was the very first one. Now, did Chloe have any movement, any speech, any memory of you at all when she, after a couple of months, or was she pretty much, non-functioning?
At Auckland Hospital once, she had an issue. She was biting her tongue early on, so they had to intervene with gadgets to stop her tongue movement, which was very invasive and terrible. So she had tubes in her mouth and this gadget stuck in her mouth, and she had a trachea, and she had a peg and a tummy to be fed.
Yep.
So she was all wired up. So even though she had woken up, she had no real response. She couldn't talk. She could see us, and she'd made eye contact. Yep. But she was the left side of her body wasn't functioning, so she couldn't see out the left side, and so that world took probably 6 months to come back. gradually, slowly.
So the eyesight actually came back. Okay. Sorry,
Well, she
Chloe.
could see on her right side.
Yeah.
But hang on, I've got that around the wrong way. I don't know my left and right.
Chloe, help me.
She could see on her right side, but the left side wasn't functioning, so she couldn't see on the left side. So her world stopped there.
Stop there.
Not that side. But anyway, when they were getting, after the 2 months, when it was obviously she was stabilised and she was reactive, and little by little they pulled some of these tubes and things out, but she was still stuck with this mouth thing.
Yep.
But once the trachea and that came out, and I was there on the night, and the senior nurse said, I think she can cope by herself, and we're going to remove that trachea. So she moved that and pulled the mouth thing out.
Wow.
First thing she said to me is, Daddy.
Oh, that'll make you bawl your eyes out, wouldn't it, Brian? So she remembered you. She had obviously some function and some memory still there. And she already, and that's a good sign, because early on in the piece, it's pretty hard not, to you don't know. I know with Mum, I didn't know whether she knew who I was or what I was or anything. And Chloe, you've got a very, very special mum and dad, haven't you?
Yep.
So you've been now in this journey for 8 years, and from that time that you woke up from the injury, and in that whole time you've been working really, really hard, and your parents and your family have been working really, really hard to bring you back.
Mm.
How hard has this journey been for you, and what has it been like?
Terrible.
Yeah,
Been
absolutely.
so hard.
So hard. Tell me some of the worst things that you've been through. Like at the very beginning, you obviously couldn't control anything in your body at all.
No, I don't think so.
Well, she had upper limb, not reasonable, but an okay upper limb movement.
Yep.
But she had, we had to help feed her every meal.
Yes. Yeah.
For months, probably 6 months.
Yep.
I'd just like to go back to one thing that your audience might be interested in, and for others that are going through this. I did as much research as was possible, everything. And Dr. Google's probably one of the best.
Isn't he wonderful?
And one of the things on that I found out was stimulation was important no matter what. So while she was not intense fear, in high dependency, I used to sing to her. Well, my voice.
Sadly.
Gorgeous. That'd kill you something else.
And I also used to read to her. So I'd read a book out loud so she'd hear it. But every time I did that, and even my singing, her heart rate went down. So she was sitting at around 90 to 100 beats per minute heart rate. Well, it had dropped to 70.
Wow.
Almost every time. So she was getting it. It was giving her comfort and stimulating. And, so that, for folks that are in the same situation, they might like to try that. There was a young guy at ABI who was a boxer, and he sustained a traumatic brain injury in the pre-fight, or in his training, and he was almost totally comatose. So his mother was there regularly, but when she wasn't, I used to go and sit with him, and I talked to him about boxing. And gosh, he just, you could see he'd smile and he'd give his facial responses. So, just as I said, never give up and try everything that's possible. But, stimulation and happiness is a great mender.
Yeah. And I think it's really important that people treat them as if they are there, Brian?
Absolutely.
Don't talk to them as if they're not present or over them. That's what I found very, very frustrating in the early days. Did you find that? Like they would talk as if Chloe didn't exist?
Yeah, the medical staff would talk over her, as they always do when you're in hospital. You've been through it. But I made it personal, and I made them talk to her and address her, even though she was not responsive. But we just stuck with it. We're not going to give up. So
and giving people that respect, even though they can't respond, is very, very important for anybody who has disabilities or anybody who can't communicate or has had a stroke or a brain injury. You know, always give them the full respect that you give anybody else, and talk to them about their situation. You know, I find that really, really offensive when people don't do that, even though they can't respond. Now, you went to Dr. Google. That's exactly what I did. I went like hardcore researching everything in the universe on brain injury. And I know, like, for the listeners, Brian and I connected a few years down the track with Chloe, and actually I was probably half a year in or a year in with Mum's Rehab when we connected, I think. And you rang me one day about hyperbaric oxygen therapy to see what I thought about that. I think you'd
correct.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that journey, because that happened already. That was already 4 years in or so to Chloe's rehab. Is that right?
Yeah, it was. Well, almost early days, I said to medical staff, you know, how about hyperbaric oxygen treatment? And to every single person, every single medical person I spoke to gave me no joy at all. No, don't know anything about that. That's not proven. It's quackery. But I played in the Auckland Rugby. I played for College Rifle Seniors, and we played Navy, and I got to talk to Buck Shelford before he was an All Black.
He reckons he was almost an All Black.
I'm sure he was, Chloe. He's as stubborn as hell.
Buck said to me, "Oh, the boys go in." You know, we're talking after the game. Oh, the boys go into the decompression chamber, which they had on the Navy base.
Yes.
The next day after the game, and he said you could watch bruises disappear.
Yep.
Now that was when I was about 19 or 20, so it was a hell of a long time ago. But that sort of it stuck with me. So almost one of the early things I thought about, well, how about hyperbaric?
Wow.
And got nowhere with it. And I sort of gave up on it because we got so much negativity from it, and we had a lot on our plate, and we're thinking about other things. But anyway, she had to have an operation at Mater Hospital to correct her foot. So while we're sitting in there for about a week and I was reading books, I really got stuck into this hyperbaric, and I found this chamber, this private chamber in Mapua, just out of Nelson. And so that was approximately 4 years on this journey that we went to Mapua. And it was actually the first time I was down there when Chloe was going through hyperbaric that I rang you. Well, she had 20 treatments at Mapua the first time, and within a week of coming away, she got control of her bowel. So she was, for 4 years, she was incontinent. So she had to wear a nappy for 4 years, and so that was just a huge step. Now there was nothing else different that we did other than hyperbaric that fixed that.
So this is 4 years. I want people to listen carefully. This is 4 years into the rehabilitation, because a lot of people have said to me, "Oh, it's too late. I had a stroke 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It's no use me doing that." 4 years after the event, 20 sessions, and you've already got a major breakthrough. This might not sound major, but as both of us and all of us have gone through, being incontinent is major. And
it's not fun.
It's not fun, is it, Chloe?
No. And
after 20 treatments to get control, that means that part of the brain is coming back online. That's what that is. And then you had to go all the way to Mapua. So there's a medical grade hyperbaric facility down in Mapua and Nelson, which I think is unfortunately closing, if it hasn't already closed. Has it, Brian?
It's in the process of closing down, but there's so much. Absolute tragedy. You know, there's so much pressure from people who know about it. So it's just trickling along, but it'll eventually close. I imagine by the end of this year, it won't be. It won't be
Right,
on.
if we had lots of money, we'd go and buy it and get it up and running again. You know, so Dr. Tim Ewer is the doctor down there. He was in charge of the Christchurch hyperbaric facility before he went then private. Now, hyperbaric is a hugely beneficial, and if you're listening to this, guys, there was one of the world's leading experts on this podcast over 2 years ago now, Dr. Scott Scher, who shared his insights. So go back and look up, and I'll put in the show notes the link to that episode, because this is really powerful. So you did that 20 sessions, and then you went back again. And this each time you're taking Chloe right down to Nelson, you're living down there, which is a hell of a sacrifice, Dad, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was, yeah.
It was
Nice
big,
place, though. If you want to go for a holiday, go to Mapua. It's just
it's a lovely place. But and Chloe, you had to go in this chamber every day, pretty much.
Every day apart from weekends.
Yeah.
Weekends I got to go shopping.
Oh, nice. She's an expensive daughter, isn't she?
She sure is. My God, yeah.
So how many sessions did you end up having in Mapua, Brian?
185, I think.
185 of that medical grade hyperbaric treatments. And as she progressed, what were the things that you saw come back online? Because when I met Chloe for the first time, she was fully in a wheelchair, unable to stand or anything like that. What happened over that 185 sessions? That's a lot of sessions, but it's nothing when you compared to a lifetime. Hey.
Oh, yeah, like it was, well, it just changed everything. She gained control of her limbs. So her feet, you know, the walking part of it, she was in a high walker, what do they call it?
A gutter frame.
A gutter frame.
Yep.
And she has to have somebody in front of it pulling and somebody behind making sure she didn't fall over. So she was 4 years down the track. That's as good as she'd got. After hyperbaric, she was able to walk in the gutter frame unassisted, you know, over a period of time. So the more we went down there, so her feet placement, it was the first thing I noticed was probably after about 40 sessions, she could manage her feet and place them in the right place instead of getting them tangled up. So then she was stable on the gutter frame.
Wow.
So didn't need a person in front and a person behind.
Yep.
And from that, she's gone on. She was into the walker, and now she's walking. She can walk the length of basketball court.
Wow, Chloe.
Unaided, so.
Chloe, you were on television recently, weren't you? Because
this
was a Christmas miracle that you gave to your dad. What did you do?
Yeah. Me and Jane organised to be on 7 Sharp. And I always wanted to be on TV.
Heck yes, why not? And you showed them in this video clip, you showed your dad and your mum you for the first time taking some steps, is that right?
Yeah.
And they caught it on camera.
Yeah.
I'll put the link to that video, guys. These are Chloe's first steps. Now this is after 185 hyperbaric sessions, thousands of hours of physiotherapy. Goodness knows what else you've done as well, Brian, for her.
We've done everything.
You've done everything under the sun, pretty much. If someone said...
There was this weird musical therapy.
Have you stuck... Well, I've got lasers that I stick up Mum's nose. I've done everything possible.
I think I've tried that too.
Yeah. I've still got that. I actually think it's great. You know, in other words, we didn't just, both of us approached this with try everything. If it's not risky, try it. And if it's risky, we'll weigh up the risks and we'll have a go at it and research like hell and take responsibility. Don't wait for the medical professionals to give you the go ahead. Don't wait for the green light for hyperbaric therapy. You know, this isn't an advert for hyperbaric therapy, but it is a very powerful therapy if you have enough sessions. And it's just an absolute travesty that Mapua is perhaps closing because the regulations around us are just terrific. They've made it very, very difficult, from what I hear, for Dr. Tim to function. And yet there are these stories. My mum has had 250 hyperbaric sessions. I ended up buying what they called a mild hyperbaric chamber, which is not as good as the one in Mapua, but it was the best that we could do. I had the first 33 sessions with her in a proper, if you want to call it that, a proper chamber, but that was through a dive company, and that was, you know, taken off and we couldn't use it anymore. And I credit that with giving me enough brain back of mum's brain that I could then teach her to walk and to do the things. And the same would have been with you, Brian, with the process coming back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, like feet placement is quite important.
I couldn't do that.
She got that under control. And, you know, all her upper limbs, she can do anything now with her arms and feet. She's got control of them. All, but and I put that down to hyperbaric because nothing else is well. She's had lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff, but I suppose that's been one of the biggest parts of the puzzle, putting them back together. Yeah.
It's the key of it, because what hyperbaric does, people, is it hyperoxygenates your body. So you're getting about 7 times the amount of oxygen into the body, and it's compressing the oxygen molecules so that it can actually pass through the blood-brain barrier to the parts of the brain that are damaged but not dead. So the dead parts we're unable to bring back. But typically around the dead parts of tissue, there is what they call the ischemic penumbra. And these are cells that are alive, but they're not functioning. And these are the ones that we can hopefully target with hyperbaric and bring back. It also hits the inflammation pathways in the brain and in the body. And it also helps produce more stem cells. And all of these things help the body to repair. So it's not a quick fix. It's something that you need to have a lot of sessions in. But as you can see with Chloe, after 4 years of not getting very far at all, and then having these 185 sessions over the period of, I don't know, 1.5 years, 2 years, she's now walking. That is massive. She now has control over her bowels and her body, and control over a hell of a lot more. Her speech has also improved greatly, hasn't it, Chloe? You're talking pretty normal now.
Yeah.
Because when I met you, it was a bit slow.
Yeah, I think when I met you, it was quite slow. And
it was, and it's a huge difference. So it's a hugely powerful, and you've got your whole life ahead. You're a super young lady, and I know that you've got your 30th birthday coming up. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
you're invited. You have to come.
I'm invited. Fantastic. I'll try and get to that, Chloe. And Chloe's dad and I have sort of exchanged notes along the road, haven't we, Brian? And
yeah, we have.
Given each other tips and tricks of what we've learned along the way. And this has been really a multi-pronged approach. It's not just the one thing. A huge part of it has been hyperbaric, but it's also thousands of hours with therapists and training and retraining the mind. It's having the guts and the determination. Like if Brian wasn't such a feisty, don't take any shit person who is going to push through every barrier, and if I wasn't the same, then I don't think Mum or Chloe would be where they are. And by the same token, Chloe and Mum are also identical in that they are fighters. They are people that persist. They are resilient. The positivity that Chloe brings to this really difficult journey is nothing short of mind-blowing. I've been absolutely astounded to watch you over the last few years on how you've just fought. You're definitely a chip off the old block, aren't you?
You're
your dad's daughter.
I'm a marathon runner, so I have lots of grit.
Exactly. So, Chloe, you were just a couple of weeks away from running your first marathon when the accident happened, eh?
No, it was my second one.
Your second one. Sorry, yeah. I forgot you'd already had the one. So
and I was dead sure I was going to do it in under 5 hours, because the first one was 5 hours, 1 minute and 26 seconds. Man, I was pissed off.
You would have smashed it too.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, that dream is still alive in you, isn't it? To actually, again, get out there and race and be in a race. You've actually done a 5K, is that right?
Yeah, we did
Kawakawa
Bay fun run.
Fun run. And you did it on your frame at that time, your Zimmer frame thing?
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
her walker. She did it, well, yeah, I guess you call it. But yeah, she did it on a walker all by herself. Well, she had lots of people around her helping her, encouraging her.
Encouraging her, but
she did
she
the whole
did
5K by herself, apart from a very steep part that she needed a bit of help
push.
on. Yeah.
That's
But, yeah.
insane. That is so amazing, Chloe. Mum, you've got mum beat. I'm up to 2Ks with mum. But we haven't got to 5Ks yet. And Chloe's story and Brian's story is in my new book, which is coming out in March, called Relentless. And it's another example of an incredible comeback story, and that's why I was really keen to share this. And Brian is hopefully going to write the book one day, and Brian and Chloe are going to get their bums into gear and share this insight as well. Even though writing a book is a mission, I hope you guys do, because this is an incredible story, Chloe, and it's not finished yet, because you've still got a wee ways to go on different areas to get full independence. Brian, do you think Chloe will ever reach full independence again and be able to, flat on her own or live in a house with flatmates and that types of thing?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah.
Really? That's amazing. So at the moment you're with mum and dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you sick of mum and dad? Do you want your own independence?
He goes away sometimes, so it's okay.
Oh, so it's just you and Ma.
Yeah.
And then you girls go shopping a bit more and spend some more money, do you?
Yeah. Mum doesn't really like shopping.
I go shopping.
No.
Yeah. And he's a credit card, so I'm
he keeps a grip on it, does he? I hope so. He needs to, by the sound of it. So, Chloe, what are the next steps in your journey? What are you working on at the moment? Because you're always working on something, eh?
Yeah. To be able to walk without the walker for like a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And what are the things that she's struggling with, Brian, in that respect? So is it balance or spatial awareness or coordinating your feet and things still?
Balance, really.
I think it's just balance at this point.
She's like almost every day she gets better at it. Like we've been away down at Tyre since Christmas, or a day or so before Christmas. And even I notice, even though we're here all the time with her, even I notice she can climb the stairs and descend the stairs now with minimal assistance. Whereas at Christmas it was, you had to keep a close eye on her, but she can do it all by herself now, just with me making sure she doesn't fall.
Are you using functional neurology? That's something that I'd highly recommend you guys start looking into if you haven't already, which is using, so doing things like with your eyes, balancing, different eye exercises that really helped me with mum with her spatial awareness and her balance stuff. So if you are you doing that at all with Chloe?
Maybe not that I'm aware of. So if you could send me that.
Yeah, I'll send you a couple of videos and links to doctors who teach this online. I'd also recommend you go to a good chiropractor that perhaps knows about functional neurology. I'm not sure if there's one up in Auckland or not, but and just get things looked at from that perspective, because adjusting the back can also help with, I've got mum at the chiropractor at the moment. We're trying to straighten out her spine. Of course, things are going a little bit skew-whiff after 4 years of being, leaned over on one side, and that can help with your neurological function as well. So as you see, people, like, it's really important to share these insights and information with each other, because we're still learning, we're still growing, we're still moving forward. And each time you take a step forward, you actually come up against a new obstacle, I've found. Hey Brian, do you find there's some new piece that you haven't thought about, a new level, a new devil sort of thing?
Yeah, like the other thing that I think is important is sustenance. The right.
The right food.
Those make a significant difference as well, I think.
Huge difference. From the right food for a brain is really, really important. And having good high fats, good omega-3s, really important. I have a whole regime of different supplements that I also have mum on. And we also do something called epigenetic testing. And I got into this, Brian, because it looks at your genetic makeup. and how they're expressing now, and gives the exact right diet for that person's genes. So that could be something that we talk about as well.
For sure, like look at them.
Yeah, because I think what the key takeaway from this, guys, is obviously hyperbaric's really important. Second is resilience and fight and persistence and not giving up. And thirdly, having the support of a wonderful family or friends or people that can help anyone going through a drama like this, and being resilient. And then also the right diet, and taking a really multi-pronged approach, not just relying on drugs, not relying on just physio. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's a part of the puzzle, but it's not enough for brain injury. But there is a way back, and there is quality of life. You know, Chloe, you're a pretty happy lady nowadays, aren't you?
Yeah.
You always seem to be jetting around the place and having a wonderful
time. I
life.
like travel.
You love travel. You've got a wonderful family. You're moving again. You're walking again. You're going somewhere. You've got your job sort of set for the next couple of years while you get yourself back to more independence. But there's quality of life, and there is happiness there, and it's an amazing story, guys. Brian, are there any last words, or Chloe, any last words that you want to encourage people who might be going through hardships? It doesn't even need to be brain injury, but just hard times.
Well, my big disappointment through all of this, Lisa, is a number of the professionals just don't get it, and like a lot, probably more than 50% of the the psychologists, if you like, have said in front of Chloe, "You'll never walk again. You've got unrealistic expectations," to her face. And some have said, "You'll never have a partner again in your life."
Oh.
And you got to get happy about that. You got to get used to it. That's how it's going to be. And
you're serious.
Well, what a lot of crap, and
what a load of bollocks.
But I've got so angry in front of people, I never quite lose it. But I felt like that, and
pretty close.
Pretty close.
I have, to be honest, guys. I've lost it a few times, and my big brothers have lost it too a few times.
So
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's just stupid. They put themselves up as so-called experts, and they know nothing.
Yep.
So for those folks, we just cut them. You don't want to know anything about them. Show them the door. That's it. We're not coming back.
You move to the next.
And we keep looking, and we've had some absolutely wonderful caregivers or professionals that have helped Chloe.
Yes.
And an event like we keep changing providers, physios, speech therapists, almost every 2 or 3 years. Until we find the right one. But they run out of ideas, they run out of experience, and Chloe's continue to improve, so therefore, some of them, you get to a stage where they've topped out, they don't know anything more and can't take it to the next stage. Well, the challenge is to find the next person who can take it to the next stage. Yes. And we've been relentless at that. We don't put up with nonsense, and we look constantly for people that can help. And we just cut the negative ones out immediately. You don't need them. They don't know. And it just really totally surprises me how these people are, and they still operate. And I just wonder how many people get discouraged by that, and just accept it. Where we don't. You and I won't.
No, we don't. And we've like the thing is, like, we're feisty fighters. We're not people that give up. But how many people go under the bus who don't have feisty daughters or fathers or people that will help them? I had times at the hospital where, like, in front of my mum, I remember vividly, we were finally got into a physio program because she wasn't ACC like you guys, so we didn't get a lot of support. And I finally got her into a physio program after a year, and we did this training with them, which was absolutely pathetic. I could have done more in my lunch break than they did. And at the end of the 6 weeks, they'd done all these tests with her, and they'd talked to her like she was an idiot. And we were in this panel that we had to present to see whether we were allowed to stay in the program. And we were taken into this room, and they said to her, "Look, Isabel is below the level of the worst dementia patient we've seen. There is absolutely no hope. She will never do anything again. We're not going to continue in the program. And this is in front of my mum, right? And I just turned around to my mum and I said, how does that make you feel, mum? And she said, well, I was feeling quite empowered until I heard that I'm below the level of dementia patient. Now I'm absolutely depressed and I don't know what to think. And their mouths dropped open. They had never heard her speak a full sentence because they'd talked down to her. They had never realised she had an intelligence there that they had ignored. And these are the professionals.
Yeah.
These are the doctors. These are the physiotherapists. And I'm not saying they're all like that. For thank God they're not.
No, they're not.
Some complete idiots. And we told them to shove their program.
Yeah. We've seen heaps.
I bet you've seen heaps because I've seen heaps. And people who had told me, even, good physios who had come to the end of their abilities, who told me, you won't get any more. That's rubbish.
Heard it.
Yeah, and you can imagine when you've got a 78-year-old, how they're even more so, because they're like, she's 78, what do you want? Let her go. No, she's my mum and I'm going to fight and I want her to live to 120. That's my attitude. And I'm not happy with where we're at yet. I'm glad we're here, but I want more, and Chloe wants more. And we keep looking for the next layer of people that can help us, and that's why we keep exchanging ideas. And I've got a couple for Chloe to look into. So,
I guess that was really my point. I think just don't give up, and when you get advice that you don't think's right, seek a second opinion, or just go elsewhere. Just cut them out. They're not worth talking to. My niece has just qualified as a medical doctor, and I said to her, she was here with us just over Christmas period, said to her, what did they teach you about hyperbaric oxygen treatment? And she said, nothing. Absolutely nothing. How absolutely stupid is that? Because hyperbaric works for almost everything. I dislocated my shoulder playing rugby years and years ago, and when they told me what I needed a shoulder reconstruction, I thought, and I was functioning okay, but I couldn't wash my hair with my left. I thought, well, I'll wash it with my right. What's the problem? But so I put up with that for years and years. And after that first 20 treatments, I was able to use my
wow, because you were in there with Chloe. You were in there.
So hyperbaric works. There's no question about it.
There's no question that there's
hair grows like crazy and goes thick, and
your fingernails they grow real quick.
So tell me, nobody can tell me it doesn't work, because it absolutely does.
It does. When I asked Dr. Scott Scher, who was on this, earlier this podcast, what he said to me, if we can get 3 treatments for anybody who's had a heart attack or stroke within a few days, we can halve the mortality rate. And I said, why the hell is this not in every single ICU in the world? And he said, because there's no money to be made in it. He said, and this is from a doctor. This is not from
being fought by the tool companies. There's
no pharma company behind it. And so they won't do the clinical trials. They won't do anything because you can't patent oxygen and they can't make money out of it. And unfortunately, that is the general state of our health system. It's very pharmacological based and it's very surgery based. And while they're brilliant at surgery and they're brilliant at those parts of the puzzle, they're no good when it comes to chronic health management, and they're no good when it comes to a situation like this. And that's why, I know this is controversial. I know this will piss some people off, but this is our experience. And it needs to be shared because there's 100 other people that will back up what we're saying, 1,000 other people.
Yeah. Interesting enough, I was in a hairdresser. I got a good haircut down at Tyrua 2 days ago. Anyway, the next customer in the door was an American lady, and we were talking about hyperbaric then. She said, well, funnily enough, almost every new mall that you go into in the States nowadays has a wellness clinic, and they have a hyperbaric chamber in.
There you go.
So yeah, it's growing.
It's growing, and they're popping up all over New Zealand. I opened a clinic here with what they call a mild hyperbaric facility. So we can't afford the big ones with the big medical grade, but they are just about as good. Not quite as good, but just about as good. They don't have 100% oxygen, and these are popping up all over the country. So guys, if you want to find out about it, this is not just for people with brain injuries. This is for people who want to anti-aging, good for athletes. This is good for healing wounds. This is absolutely proven stuff. And there is clinical trials overseas, and it is a powerful. And by the same token, there's 100 other therapies or biohacking or whatever you want to call it, stuff out there that is worth looking into. We can't give recommendations for everything there is, but there's a hell of a lot that I've tried. And all combined together, do the risk assessment yourself, and if you think it's for you, go for it, and don't be told what you can and you can't do, and just keep powering on. Chloe, Brian, you've been fantastic today. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's really important. It's so important, Chloe, that you get out there and you tell people this journey that you've been on. There's a reason why you've been through this, and we've got to turn it into a positive, even though it's been hell for you and your family. This is why the book for me is important, to get it out there, to share these insights so that other people don't have to have it as hard as we did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can help people, then that's great. So if anybody wants to reach out to Chloe, where do they find you, guys? Because you're famous now, Chloe.
Yeah, my journey back to running, my Facebook page.
My journey back to running, Facebook. So Chloe Hogan on Facebook, they can find you there under Chloe Hogan. Would that be right?
Chloe M.S. Hogan.
Okay, Chloe M.S. Hogan. What a complicated name you've got.
I got pretty names. Chloe Monique Sophia.
Wow, that is very fancy.
Yeah, Sophia was my grandaunt.
Oh, wow, that's a pretty cool name. So Chloe M.S. Hogan, if anyone wants to reach out to Chloe, I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. If anyone wants to reach out to me or to Brian, please let us know. You can email me and I can pass any messages on if you've got any questions. Thank you very much, guys, for sharing your story. We've got to get it out there more. It's an absolutely amazing story. And you and Mum, Chloe, are both rock stars. So thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Lisa.